All right, guys, let's hit an outright bet here for the 3M Open. So, Eric Paul's in North 905 Sports, going to be getting into the outright betting picks here for the 3M Open. And honestly, guys, there's about 10 players that I really like. I recognize that 4 of those outright bets are going to be FOMO bets, which obviously that's a little bit of bias. Probably not bets you'd want to make. Going to be touching on the first round leader bets as well. As you guys know, it's a pretty predictive thing to do. It's just whether or not there are going to be ties. Like if you did Cameron Young last week, if you just reduced it to the AM only tee times, he was inside the top 9, so you could easily hit Cameron Young as a first round leader bet. And then we're also going to be talking about Showdown. Showdown goes hand in hand with the first round leader betting. And then we're also going to be touching on the ownership leverage. And honestly, guys, this is a big week for ownership leverage. And after I get into weather, that's going to be the first thing I touch on, because not every week we have ownership leverage where it actually matters, or ownership, like talking ownership really matters too much. This week it actually does, because there are some very high owned golfers that we just do not have to play this week. So I'm excited to touch on that. So let's get into it. So it's real quick with the weather. As always, PGATourweather.com, just go there. It's going to help you out when you're trying to just find, information about the weather. So looking at it right now, we can see that really Thursday is the only day where maybe the weather is going to play a big impact, and potentially on Saturday where we could get a delay with those scattered thunderstorms. It could soften up the course and it could make it play a little bit easier. I'm still playing it as, we're going to target the AM only in Showdown slates and nothing really too much other than that. It's pretty ideal conditions, really. Not too much of a breeze. Once it gets over 50 miles per hour, that's when we start to see it really change how the course is going to play. So, nothing too much with weather, but let's get into that ownership leverage. So getting into it, I'm going to pull it up. So the one thing I want to point out, I'm actually just going to go salary by salary, just kind of showing you guys. Is there a big difference between Sungjae and Hideki to Tony Finau? Slightly, sure. Tony Finau's made the cut here 3 straight years, and is in a little bit better recent form, but Hideki and Sungjae are a little bit better staff. It's like I think their upside is just as great as Tony Finau. And at Tony Finau's current ownership, he's being valued as someone that's going to finish top 5, whereas Hideki and Sungjae's current ownership, they're being valued as someone that's only going to finish top 10. So I think that's a good way of looking at it. It's like, all right, which is more likely to happen, Hideki and Sungjae finishing top 15 or Tony Finau finishing top 5? That's something you got to decide for yourself. But just looking at those golfers a little bit more, they each have made a start here, okay? Tony Finau's best finish was 3rd 2 years ago. Like I said, 3 straight made cuts. Hideki 7th and Sungjae 15th. That's pretty good. Obviously, Sungjae in terrible recent form, and that's why you wouldn't want to play him. I'm not saying you have to play those guys, but you could easily go with Salik Tagala. But what I've been doing, and it seems like the public is doing as well, is they are just fading that range and then just going down here. Now, I do find it extremely interesting. Like Davis Riley is almost to the point where you fade him. 30% ownership when you got Cameron Tringale right there, who's pretty much exactly the same play. Maverick McNeely there, who I think is a better play. Adam Hadwin, who is equally as good of a play. It doesn't make sense for Davis Riley to be the most owned player out of that section. So if you're going through it and, you're trying to make a 50-50 decision, well, maybe just fade the golfer or not play the golfer that is a little bit higher owned this week. And that's really the point I want to echo this week. It's like, if we're choosing between these golfers, there's no need to play Davis Riley at his high ownership when you can get the same or better play a little bit higher or a little bit lower. So that's going to be what I'm going with this week. Then we go lower here. Brendan Steele's starting to get up there. That's kind of crazy, but I get it. Obviously, he ranks out really well. Don't worry about Mark Hubbard or Charles Howell. They're not in it. Nick Hardy. I want to pull up Nick Hardy too, because Nick Hardy is pretty much the exact same play as Davis Riley here. Well, you can see there's a lot of red here, guys. There's a lot of golfers that are being overvalued this week, and that's what I want to point out. Sure, you can get away with a couple of these guys here and there in GPPs, but loading up on too much chalk in this range is going to hurt you, I think, this week. People are going to go Davis Riley, Nick Hardy, Chris Gotterup, and it's going to hurt them. I'm glad to see Chris Gotterup's ownership has went down from the 30% it started at this week, because I think people didn't really have it known that he missed the cut in his last event. I don't think people were really counting the Barracuda Championship, and then they realized he was. So that's something to pay attention to, I think. But look at it, guys. Like, you could easily go with Ryan Palmer, who's pretty much the exact same play as Chris Gotterup or Nick Hardy, and I don't love that. Like, I'm not doing that, but you could easily do that. Is my point is, like, Martin Laird, pretty much. I don't want to say pretty much the exact same play, but a good play as well. You look at projected cut percentage, it's about the same as those guys. You go lower from Chris Gotterup, you could easily get on something like Brennan Todd, who almost ranks out as good. Adam Svensson, I'm really shocked that he is not higher owned. Okay, guys. At 7.6, he's pretty much the exact same play as Adam Long. And he's only 23% projected ownership. Like, honestly, guys, he should be like 40% owned this week. He's just the correct play at this price point. Pulling up Adam Svensson again. Right here. So he finished 15th at this event 3 years ago. 7 straight made cuts in a row. Stat rank, top 20. Recent form rank, top 25. Mile rank, top 15 in the field, top 12. It's going to be tough not to play him, honestly. At that price point, he's like so cheap that you really can't afford to fade him. But then we get into like Grillo. Like, there are just so many plays where if you just make these slight adjustments to these players that are just as good, I think that's going to be key. Like Troy Merritt ranks 26th in the 9 to 5 mile at 7% ownership. Pretty much the exact same play as Chris Gotterup, Nick Hardy, and he has those local ties somewhat. He makes a lot of sense, I think, personally. Nick Taylor, like, I don't love Nick Taylor, not in the best recent form, but you could roll with him. Tyler Duncan, another golfer, I think he's going to play well at this like lesser caliber field event. You could usually roll with him. And sorry, guys, once again, still kind of recovering from COVID. Had it last Tuesday. Pretty much I shouldn't be talking a lot is what it comes down to. But just looking at the golfers that are vastly overowned, like, I don't recall a week in which, if we go to like 7% projected ownership, like that, we got this many golfers that were overowned. This is crazy. And just for the fun of it, before we pivot out of this, I'll show you guys real quick who's the most underowned. So these are the golfers that are the most underowned. This is where you can gain some ownership leverage. So once again, Troy Merritt's popping up there. Ryan Palmer, you could roll with. But for the fun of it, I'm going to make a bad chalk build. I haven't done this in a couple of weeks, but it is fun. So I'm going to do it. So I'll start by projected ownership, and let's just go. Davis Riley. Like, by bad chalk, what I mean is they are overvalued chalk, okay? And if you just load up with too many overvalued golfers, you're obviously not going to make a great build. Okay, so we have a lot of room left over with that build. I want to try to get to 80% projected ownership. Can I fit Tony Finau in there? Interesting. I can't really make it work just yet. Let's see here. Maybe get off of Brendan Steele to go to Tony Finau. And then 7K left over. Is there any 7K golfers that are popping up more than they should be? No, not really. Well, damn, I can't really make a bad chalk build work where I want to try to get, the projected ownership's extremely high here, guys. 126. That's pretty damn high. But I need to make it like actually work logically. That's what I'm trying to go for here. Oh, man. This kind of sucks. Like, Svensson would work, but like I don't think he's overowned, I think you kind of just have to eat the chalk there because his price is too good. Maybe go up from Grillo. I guess we'll do. No, that's the same thing. It doesn't really really work, I guess, this week, unfortunately. I mean, McNeely, I guess, for the sake of the build. Not a terrible build, obviously, but a lot of our own golfers, and it's just interesting. So when I did like the bad chalk build in the past, it didn't cash. I stopped doing it, but it didn't cash in like 5 out of, or it did cash in like 4 out of 10 times, which is kind of crazy. I would have thought that'd be, you're playing the highest owned players on the slate together in builds. Obviously, I'm trying to make them like the worst ones as possible, but still they had to meet a certain threshold, and it didn't cash that often. That's pretty crazy. But enough with that. Let's get into the betting, kind of probably what you guys came here for. So just looking at it, as always, I kind of like to look at AM only. I don't know why this is backwards right now. That's weird. Okay, so it's backwards right now. I don't really get why that is, but whatever. So just looking at first round leader, just to give you guys the showdown picks and first round leader bets. So looking at it right now, Sanjay and Hideki, obviously class of the field. If you were trying to make a bet on them, it'd be in first round leader. They rank out second and third in first round leader rank. Obviously, you have that AM wave that you want to see. Then, then from there, Adam Hadwin is up there. Adam Svensson has the earliest tee time, which it's just kind of fun to wake up to and see what he's doing. It's more of a fun factor play, but obviously like to see that he's ranking out well. You have Brendan Steele there, another player that we really like this week. Maverick McNeely popping up there. Salik Tagala. Like, I would bet on all these guys to have the first round lead and just know that you're going to give yourself a decent chance to hit one of them. And if you want, just bet them to T5, top 5 on the AM slate. You can be very profitable doing that. That's on BetMGM. That'd be a route that I think I would go as well. From there, like Tyler Duncan, kind of popping. He's a nice value on the showdown slate. You could easily roll with him. Dylan Fratelli casually popping up there as well for first round leader. Brendan Todd, if you're going with more of a fair and balanced approach, you could roll with him. Kramer Hickok, like I don't love him, but he's kind of popping up there as well. So just some names that you could look at for the first round leader betting. And then just overall, which players are most likely to win? This is always something I like to monitor. Cameron Smith was ranked 9th last week. And just the percent of winners that come from out of the top 10, like most likely to win, is like over 50 on the year, which is, crazy. If you go to top 12, it's like 66%. And if you reduce it down to the top 5%, it's like 45%. So really, you're doing yourself a disservice if you're going too off the board. And that's probably the number one flaw I see people make with their outright betting cards. So JT Poston popping up there, and that's really because he won recently and his made cuts have been really strong finishes lately. So that's a little bit shocking to me, but he's a good stat fit, ranks out well this week. Personally, I don't see it that way, but interesting to see that the data is saying that. Same thing with Nate Lashley. Like, what's coming into this with Nate Lashley is the fact that he does rank out well this week, and his made cuts have been really strong finishes. I don't really see that with him. That's kind of the Sam Burns rule for you guys, if you recall that. I won't be treating them that way. Sanjay, I don't really love as an outright bet. Hideki, I don't really love as an outright bet. This is where the human element comes into it. So I'm going to be focused on like Adam Hadwin, Maverick McNeely. I like those players a lot. You could roll with Tony Finau. I think if I'm going to be doing Davis Riley in DFS this week, it's going to be outright betting wise as well. So I think he makes for a great outright bet. Cameron Tringali is another one of those golfers that makes for a great outright bet this week. Brendan Steele as well. I think Brendan Steele is another strong outright bet this week. And then Adam Svensson. Adam Svensson is another one of those golfers I think is a great outright bet as well. Then we get lower. Like, this is where I know why I'm betting on them. It's a little bit of bias. Salik Tagala. Like, I think he does make for a strong outright bet, but it's more the FOMO that I want to outright bet him. It's the fear of missing out here. Troy Merritt, same thing, fear of missing out. This is a course where he has had a top 10 finish, went to, played at Winona State for a year before transferring up. That's a Minnesota school, so it has a little bit of that those narratives there as well. So he's someone I don't mind. And then Colin Tarrin, not really going to be popping up too much Let's see if I can pull him up down here. He's a 7K play, you know, only raced off 40th in the 9-5 mile. Not great, but he's a golfer that has had some upside. Really, with him, it's eliminating that one bad round, and that did happen last week as well. He shot like a 75, which whatever, it's a different format tournament. But the thing is that if he just eliminates that one bad turn or that one bad round, he'd be a golfer that would be producing a lot more this year than he has. But that's all I have for you guys for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please give me a like and subscribe. If you guys want to join 9-5 Nation, the best value in PGA DFS, $10 a month. The link is in the description below. All right, thanks for watching, guys, and as always, let's keep cashing.